TKM X30 KZ won the Honda and Iami cadet classes, and for the very first time Bambinos from 6 years of age are all here for round 6 of the Stevenage Sheet Metal Super 1 British Karting Championships. Iami and Honda Cadet coming up in parts 2 and 3 of this programme. Now, the only driver racing in both classes is joining me here. It's Harry Thompson. Now, Harry, you're racing for Fusion Motorsport in Iami Cadet. That's the 2-stroke, but you're also in Honda Cadet with Cutting Edge as well. Just talk a little bit about the challenge that faces you racing 2 classes, first of all, on at the one meeting.
Well, it's a completely different drive for a start. Iami's more smoother on the wheel and getting it in early, and Honda's more like throwing it into the corners and pulling out.
And the power delivery, I guess, is different for a 4-stroke compared to this 2-stroke, yeah?
Yeah, because the 4-stroke's got more torque, so it picks up earlier.
And how is it for you? You're in Fusion at the moment with Iami, but you'll be going from here over to the Cutting Edge awning as well. Different mechanics, different team awnings. You're running around between the awnings. First of all, why did you choose 2 different teams for Honda and Iami? Is it because they specialise?
Well, we got to go in FKS with them this year, so we thought we might as well go in Fusion with them this year as well. And Cutting Edge, I've been with them since I was 4.
I'm just talking to Harry Thompson there. Just tell us a little bit about Harry, how you got on with him and what he's all about.
Well, he's obviously a very talented young driver. He's probably won more races this year across both championships than anyone else out there. So given the fact he's only just really stepped up from Hondas to Iami's, he's really made his presence felt. So yeah, impressive driver, talented kid, and quite a pleasure to work with.
How difficult is it for you being, I'll say arguably, because I don't want to upset any other teams, but arguably the top cadet team in Iami for the last several years? How difficult is it for you as the team manager to divide your loyalties? Because you've got some seriously fast boys in here, Johnny Edgar amongst them obviously, and they're all competing with each other to win the championship. How difficult is that for you to keep everybody happy?
Obviously, it's something that every team has to go through. You have to manage this situation where you get drivers competing at the front within the team, and we generally as a team don't really have any team orders as such, other than to try not to take each other out, which is sometimes easier said than done. But the drivers have got a good relationship. They get on well inside the awning and out on the track as well. So generally speaking, it's pretty amicable. We've obviously had situations in the past where it's not been so, but at the moment they're working together. They understand that they need to use the team advantage of having strong teammates to their advantage. And with the nature of cadet racing, you see drivers working together, and obviously we've got stiff competition from AIM and other teams. So they understand if they've got to win the race, if they're going to win the race, they've got to work together and try and gain an advantage.
And how hard is it for you as a team manager to be looking forward to the next generation? We've got Bambinos here this weekend for the first time. Will you be out looking at the Bambino drivers and thinking that's somebody we need to be trying to encourage into our team? And how do you do that? I mean, obviously by winning, obviously that's one way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have the Bambinos here, first of all. It's not something we really looked at a lot in the past, but this year we've got a little bit more involved from a manufacturer point of view with Synergy. We've developed our own Bambino chassis, so we're looking out there and seeing what drivers are doing well. Obviously, from the team point of view, it's good to keep an eye on what upcoming talent there is. and there's some impressive drivers out there. So yeah, for sure, we need to look further down the ladder, and Bambino's is a great place to sort of see what drivers have got the ability and approach them obviously about coming on board in Miami when they're old enough. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing to have around, and I think they're enjoying it. You see all the Miami drivers coaching some of the Bambinos out there, so it's good to have a bit of interaction between the two groups of kids as well.
So let's kick off here at Larkhall. It's the Bambino guest class out on track first. 21 drivers, the first time ever Bambinos have been out on the same weekend as Super 1, and it's great to have them out on circuit. There's Joseph Baird, the 19, just making his way around the course. If you don't know much about the Bambino class, well, let's hand you over to Alan Tadei, who caught up recently with Dan Parker of Zip Karts. He can tell you more about it.
Zip import the engines and the tyres for the Bambino class. We've just seen them at Rye House. Just talk a little bit about the engine reliability, how it works, and the reason for the change in the tyres recently as well.
Yeah, basically the MSA put out a tender document, in line with how they create the new classes, and we won the tender for the engine and the tyres. The engine's really reliable, little two-stroke 50cc engine, so it doesn't rev too high, and they last a long time. The more you use them, the looser they get and the better they are. The change of the tyres is quite an important one, because the Bambino class at the moment using the slick tyre is just very, very fast everywhere. Basically, the guys don't have to lift off the throttle. So using a harder compound tyre with a wet tread on it actually makes the karts slide around a little bit more, so the kids actually learn better kart control. So certainly with our contacts with the cadet teams, they say one of the problems with the Bambino class before was they just don't learn any actual car control. So the idea is with this tyre, harder tyre, slightly narrower, it's a little bit harder to drive, so the kids actually improve their driving technique.
And the tyre looks a little bit like an F1 intermediate tyre, but this is the tyre they're using in both wet and dry conditions now then?
Yeah, we worked with LeConte to develop the tyre. Basically, we've gone through various different testing processes in hot conditions, cold conditions, and obviously in the UK rainy conditions. It does give good performance all round.
Thanks to Dan Parker there from Zip Karts. That interview conducted just as we were about to make the switch in Bambinos to the treaded tyres, and now they're working beautifully. You can just see Taylor Orridge there in the 69. Real mechanical grip is now being delivered from these karts as a result of it. It's kind of the karting equivalent of Formula Ford racing now. Perfect stepping stone for youngsters to move up the echelons of British karting. Now this young man, Freddie Slater, actually won the British Open Championship yesterday. Earlier on, Alan Tadei caught up with him.
Freddie, you're racing for your dad's company, Bayliss and Harding, this weekend. You're in Bambino now, you're 6 years of age. When did you start karting? How old were you?
I was, I think, 3 or 4. My brother's got my kart now, so I'm racing Bambino. I don't think he wants to do it, so I think we should give him to play football, and then I'll just do karting.
Yeah, you can have all the money, all the sponsorship for the karting. That sounds a good plan to me.
It's the plan every racing driver wants to hear. Young Freddie Slater yesterday in the British Open Championship swept the board, and the next time you see him out at Bambino level, he'll have the O plate. Now, what about this young kid as well? Alfie Briggs, very talented young superstar in the making. He's been an absolute stalwart of the non-MSA Bambino classes in the last couple of seasons, and it looks as if it's going to go the same way for him in MSA competitions. Very talented young star, Alfie Briggs. Comes from the Silverstone area of the country. And he's been battling for a lot of his time with this young kid, Chance Bennett as well, the 66, another very talented ace in junior karting at Bambino level. Now let's just remind you, if you don't know much about the world of Bambino at MSA level, unlike the non-MSA classes of Bambinos where they race, MSA Bambinos is a timed session, so it all comes down to fast lap times as Max Jordan bangs in a quick one there, 55.3 around the Larkhall circuit. Good work from him, and this is something that's been debated an awful lot around the kart circuits of Great Britain by the lads and dads. They want to race rather than do timed sessions, and it's something that's come up more than once in the world of British karting, and seeing them here at Super 1 for the first time has only moved that debate on even further, and it's something that has been discussed at length. We watched Leah Robinson go through on a 55.3. The MSA's technical administrator for karting, Joe Hickerton, was approached recently by Alan with that very topic in mind.
From the feedback I'm getting, it appears that the people involved in Bambino want to be able to race. Now, the MSA's position at the moment is you don't allow the Bambino drivers to actually take part in a full-blown race where there's a grid and you've maybe got 20 karts going into turn one. What's the thinking behind that, and could that possibly change perhaps at some point in the future?
When the Bambino class under MSA was originally introduced a couple of years ago, it was introduced as a time trial format, as you say, individual starts with set intervals. And it was introduced very much as a pre-race training format. So the idea was very much behind training the drivers to learn how to drive the kart and control the kart before putting them into a full-blown race situation, which obviously they then begin when they start the cadet class at 8. We have looked previously in the last couple of years at whether we can adopt a race format for the Bambino class within MSA. It hasn't been progressed at this point, but there's no reason why in, say, 12 months' time we can't look at a proposal again and see if maybe there is the possibility of doing racing for Bambinos in the future. It's something that will need to be discussed by the committees and ultimately will need to be approved by Motorsports Council, who will look at all aspects, including safety, medical, whether the children are able to race at that age, in their opinion. So there are many aspects that need to be considered, but it can certainly be looked at.
Another talented racer in Bambinos, Caleb McDuff, the number 38. Alan caught up with his father, Ian, a little earlier.
Ian, tell us a little bit about Caleb's disability.
Caleb is profoundly deaf. He was born hearing, but he lost his hearing sometime before the age of 2 as a result of ear infections. So whilst he's racing, he can't hear anything at all.
But is there any reason, though, why that should impact on him ever becoming a top racing driver? I'm not sure it will. Will it?
I don't think so. I can't see why this should be a problem. He obviously can't hear his own engine whilst he's karting because he's got the crash helmet on, which means he has to take his cochlear implants off. But he'll learn to feel engine vibrations through the chassis of the kart, which he's doing really well with. And obviously, as time goes on, technology will improve, so I'm sure we'll find a way around it.
A Downforce Radio under-13 Young Gun nominee last year, Caleb McDuff, very talented superstar, and following in the traditions of Nicholas Hamilton as a disabled racer, making his way as an independent driver. Let's look at the results from the Bambino guest class. Taylor Orridge, the fastest driver, in front of Freddie Slater, with Leo Robinson rounding up the top 3 in front of Chance Bennett, Alfie Briggs and Max Jordan. Oscar Blanchard in 7th place in front of Riley Price, Oliver Wright and Nathan Browning rounding up the top 10. More from Larkhall after the break.